Hey guys, welcome to the Hollywood Raw YouTube page. Make sure you drop a comment, like, subscribe.
Do all the fun things.
Follow
everything. We're here to entertain you guys.
What are you waiting for? Hurry up, let's go.
Enjoy. Welcome to the Hollywood Raw podcast. I am Dax Holt. That is Adam Glyn, and we together are the Hollywood Raw podcast.
It's a good way to start it.
I don't know where that came from. I'm sorry. We're just gonna go with it.
You were such like the Casey Kasem of like entertainment news radio. You're so good at it, dude. Yeah. How are you guys?
How are you?
I'm good, man. Thank you guys for listening. Usually every week, at least on our Wednesday episode, we usually have a guest on, and sometimes we like to switch it up and just Dax and I talk, and that's what we're gonna do today. Is that right, Dax?
Well, you know what it is? It's because I am the one who is like letting people into our private Facebook page off the record, and I'm reading a lot of the times like what your favorite episode was or who you want on, and a lot of people seem to really like our episodes about our personal interactions with celebrities, like either who's the biggest asshole, they love that episode, they love the ones of just who we don't like or who we do like, or what we've had throughout the years when it comes to celebs. And so I thought, why don't we do something a little different today? If they like these interactions, let's talk about the best interactions we've ever had with celebs, because we've never really done that. We've mentioned it a couple times, sprinkled in, but we've never like actually done an episode where like, let's talk about the coolest shit that has ever happened to us that involved a celebrity.
Yeah.
So that is the plan for today.
And Dax, I'm actually curious to hear your list, because Dax and I, again, we have not heard each other's lists. We both met a good amount of people, a lot of people. And we just, for this episode, we haven't shared our list with each other. So me and Dax are going to kind of go back and forth to see who, just kind of compare our favorite celebrity interactions, our favorite celebrity kind of meetups with, in a way, I guess.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty
cool.
cool.
And then we're going to vote at the end who has a cooler life and the other person gets killed. So
yeah,
it's going to be great.
It is great. Before we get to that, we are going to read your reviews. Dax has a few ready for us. Dax, do you have some reviews?
I got some reviews. This one comes from KBS 7601. It says, fantastic show. This podcast brings me joy. They always have such positive energy that puts me in a good mood. They are such incredible interviewers as well. Highly recommend. Thank you, KBS. Appreciate it. And if I read this one, really sorry, guys. I'm trying to keep my shit together, and I'm not doing a good job. All right. Next comes from Stephanie Fasick. 5 stars. Love your shows, babe. Love your show, babes. I'm in sales and I have to drive a lot. You make my long days enjoyable. I love your flow and format. You make an hour-and-a-half drive feel like 30 minutes. I found you through Juicy Scoop. I don't follow many podcasts. Don't feel bad for me. I'm killing it right now. Thanks for keeping me entertained between my stressful appointments. And that comes from Stephanie Jenkins from Annapolis.
That's nice.
Thank you. Yeah, no, great post right there. Great review. And my last one comes from Ash Bump. 5 stars, one of the best overall podcasts. I found this podcast after listening to you on Do You, and I'm officially obsessed. It's such a great mix of everything, Hollywood gossip and all things. By far, one of my top 3 I listen to every single week. Thank y'all. Love, Ashley Bumpus, I think you say his
Bumpus,
name.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Ashley. I'm deleting out the ones that I've already read, but I feel like I keep running into every week the same ones pop back into my list, and I don't know how it's happening. So if I've already read those, I'm sorry, but I'm doing my best here, okay?
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for the reviews. Again, that's the best thing you do to support this podcast is leave a review. Leave a review. All you got to do is go to iTunes or wherever you listen to Apple. Go to Apple. Most of you guys are listening to Apple. Go to Apple, the podcast app. Put in Hollywood Raw. Go all the way to the bottom. And then there you can leave 5 stars, say a few kind words. And if you do that, we'll actually read your review live on air. And thank you to guys that do that. Shout out to everyone in our private Facebook group, Off the Record. You guys are awesome. And now, Dax, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to get right into it.
Just do it. Go for it.
Let me ask you, Dax, who was the first concert you ever saw?
Dave Matthews.
No. Was it?
Yes, 100%. I saw Dave Matthews at Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado. That was my first concert, and everything has been shit after that. No, I'm kidding.
Well, no, I get it's same thing. Dave Matthews is my first.
Really?
Is it a Jewish thing? I don't even know. No, it was. Yeah, Dave Matthews Band was my first concert ever. I love Dave Matthews Band. It's just. I don't know how would you explain Dave Matthews Band to like everyone knows who they are, but
we have to. I feel like
no,
everyone
people
knows
know who they
Dave
are, but like,
Matthews.
why is it that we love them so much? Because it's not like they're like.
But you know why? Because it's so connected to our childhood, I think. Like, growing up, I remember Dave Matthews just being huge. Like, when I was in, like, middle school into high school, like, they were the band. Like, Satellite, God, that was such a good jam. You know, like, they just had hit after hit after hit. And they were the band that you would want to see live in person. Like, everyone talked about how great they were. And so I think when it came to my first concert, getting to see them, it was like, that was it.
Yeah.
You know, that was the coolest you could have gotten. And if anyone's been to Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado, it is the best venue. It is outside. It's in this natural rock formation. The acoustics are incredible. So Dave there was just the end all be all.
That's so cool. So again, well, my first concert was Dave Matthews Band. Okay, to me that was just, that was like my Grateful Dead. I started getting into them in high school, and my first concert was in high school, and I went to go see them, and I was driving at the time, and I remember me and my buddies went. And everyone was like, "Hey, listen, everyone's smoking pot." I was like, "All right, I'll smoke pot." Everyone, that's what you do at a Dave Matthews Band concert. Well, obviously over the years, I got to go to a lot of concerts, and, I've got like a few autographs from Dave, like on the streets of New York City. But one day I saw the violinist Boyd Tinsley walking around Soho, New York City. And to me, Boyd Tinsley was the Richie Sambora, the Slash, like that's the type of like musician I thought he was. Like he was just... He was Keith Richards
He's
to
the
me.
coolest dude.
Yeah, he was the number 2 in the band, but to me he was just a very kind of a standout guy. He had a look that stood out, and I just loved the violin. I don't know, I just loved it. So anyway, he was walking around Soho, New York City, and this was years ago, and this is when I was back at TMZ. I put the camera on Boyd, and I start to talk to him, and he was so happy that I was interviewing him, and I was interviewing him as a fan. I was like, what's your favorite song to do live? And, I just had this great conversation with him. He was so excited back to talk to me because I don't think he was used to someone putting a camera on him. I don't even know if that many people, especially, paparazzi, recognize him. So it was just like a cool thing for him, cool thing for me. After we're done, I was like, hey, can I get a photo with you? Absolutely. And then we start talking. And he goes, hey, listen, we exchange information. And he goes, hey, listen, never pay for a ticket again. Whenever you want to come to a show, reach out to me. So I'm like, all right, cool.
Dude, that's like hitting the fucking gold mine right
Dude,
there.
it gets better. So it's about 10 months later, the Dave Matthews Band is doing a show in Brooklyn. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to use my one pass thing. Actually before that, the video I did with Boyd went on TV. It made, got a lot of attention. I sent the video to Boyd. He's like, man, that's awesome. Again, that's when he sent me the message, never pay for a ticket again. 10 minutes later, Dave Matthews Band's playing in Brooklyn. I was like, all right, I'm going to use my golden ticket. I reach out to Boyd. I go, hey, Boyd, I saw you guys in Brooklyn. And any chance you got, you let me roll or let me kind of get extra pass? Writes me back, absolutely. How many you want? I was like, I'm not going to be like crazy and last for like 6 or even 4.
Just 17, no big deal.
Right?
Just me and all of my friends.
Yeah, just my bar mitzvah. We're gonna So anyway, so it's just me and a girl I was dating at the time, and we go to the concert, and we don't think anything of it. We get to the concert, and we find out we have like access to like a pre-party before the show. So we go to like the pre-party before the show, and it was like free booze, free food. And I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. Dave Matthews Band, Barclays. I don't get hooked up like this stuff ever. And then we see the show, and the show was awesome. We had a great seat on the side of the side, and we were able to see the ticket, able to see them perfectly, and it was just a great show. Dave Matthews Band plays for 2.5 hours. During the encore, the band's manager comes to get me, goes, hey, Boyd wants you to come on the tour bus. I'm like, what? Like after the show, I'm like, what? Okay. So we, as like the band's fishing up, we kind of leave and go like backstage and go towards like the side of the stage. And then they're like, thank you, good night. Boyd like runs off stage. He's all sweaty. Adam, what's up, man? Come on. Grabs me and like brings me to the tour bus. Okay. We go into the tour bus, and there was actually some other people I knew. And it was like a few people I knew on the tour bus. And there's a pizza there, and we wound up getting so high on the tour bus. Weed, marijuana, not like heroin or any of the drugs. We just smoked a ton of pot on the tour bus, and it was great. Here I am at the Barclays Center. We smoked a ton of weed. And apparently, at the time, Boyd was like, hey, when people give him like joints from the stage, when they throw weed on the stage, like he smokes them. And
that seems like a bad idea.
Yeah, I know, right?
Okay, keep going.
So we got really high, and then he goes, you know what? Let's do something crazy. I'm like, all right, let's do something crazy. He goes, he goes, where's my phone? He tweets out, it goes, hey, if you want to meet me right now, meet me at this. And he puts out a random corner in Brooklyn. And I'm like, oh, are we going to do this? And he goes, yeah. So he tweets out some random corner in Brooklyn. We take the tour bus. Now I get driven out of the Barclays Center in the tour bus. Mm-hmm. We go to this random corner of Brooklyn. It's now a cold night in December at like 12:31 in the morning. And there's like 300 people there. And I'm like, oh man, this is crazy. And I look at Boyd. I'm like, yo, this is nuts. I'm like, come on, Boyd, let's go say hi. He goes, no. Let's get higher. I'm like, what? So we, all right. So we smoke some more weed, like joints. We do this volcano thing. We get super high. We go on the bus. Boyd was so nice. Basically hugged everyone from the show. Like took photos with everyone, hugged everyone. Was so great to everyone. We were there for like an hour and a half. And then he took me home in the tour bus.
Dude.
Dropped me off in the tour bus.
That is amazing. Now, that's a damn good story. So that's the end of our episode because I can't beat that one.
That was like my almost famous moment, dude. Like that was but the coolest part is like during like so here's the shitty part. He's no longer in the band. And he just had like a falling out. He's not in the band anymore, but like for years, every single time like Dave Matthews played in the area, like I went to the show, I brought my buddies with me. We got to go on the tour bus and hang out with Boyd. And for me and my friends who like from middle class Jersey, like my friends who are not from this business, and they get to go on the guy's tour bus from a guy who's the Dave Matthews Band. Our first concert ever was just like, even for my friends, I could see through eye like how cool this moment was. And I went to shows in Philly. I went to shows in LA. I even got tickets for my friends because he became such a close friend of mine for years. And then it just sucks he's no longer in the band, but it was a great hookup for a little bit.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What a good story.
Yeah. Well, all right. So what do you got?
All right. So did I ever tell you the story behind how I like became friends with Ice-T and Coco?
No.
Okay. So what happened was, this was back in the TMZ days. We were doing an episode of the show, and someone was kind of pitching out the fact that Ice-T and Coco had a Tupperware party. This was like a long time ago. I think they were getting sponsored, or like Tupperware's paying them a bunch of money to do like a Tupperware party, okay? And there was a bunch of photos from inside the event and videos. And of course, the newsroom just started ragging on them. Like, how could this rapper be like hawking Tupperware? This is so dumb. And I remember we had just gotten in a bunch of knives from Tupperware, in my house personally. And they were like these green knives, and they were the best knives I'd ever like tried out. And so I stood up for them. I was like, whoa. You guys may think it's dumb, but like Tupperware's actually got some good products. And literally that was the moment that changed everything for me, sticking up for these people. And next thing I know, Coco starts following me on Twitter. And she like reaches out to me and says, hey, thank you so much. We watched the TMZ episode, and everyone just ragging on us about Tupperware, and you were the one person who stood up, who defended us, and who like went to bat for us. And she goes, I just really appreciate that. And literally that moment started this like friendship, and then we started like, tweeting back and forth and all this kind of stuff. And I was, pitching out nice stuff about them on the show every once in a while. But then I went to New York, and I was out there. I met up with my buddy Nico when he was in town, and he was in town from Germany. And I was like, hey, what do we want to do? And I'm tweeting, and Coco saw me post that I was in New York, and she was like, hey, let's go out to dinner. And I'm like, wow, oh, shit. Like,
that's cool.
I'm like, seriously? And she's like, yeah, like Ice and I want to take you out for dinner. Like, you've always been so good to us. Like, can we take you out? And I was like, sure. She's like, all right, give us the name of your hotel, and we'll swing by and pick you up.
What?
And of course, I was staying at like fucking, I don't know, Holiday Inn or Motel 6. Like,
yeah, I would have ran to
the greatest hotel.
I would have ran to the Ritz and just like pick me up from the Ritz. Yeah.
I was so embarrassed. I was like, we're staying at the Holiday Inn on, and they literally came to the Holiday Inn, picked us up in their, I think it was like, God, what kind of car was it?
Bentley, Rolls Royce,
I don't even
Maybach?
remember. No, it was
Mercedes, S-Class?
No. I don't know. Whatever. It was a really nice car. It was totally tricked out. Pitch black windows, beautiful interior, and it was literally ICE driving us around the city, chatting us up. They took us to this, awesome restaurant right in Manhattan. I have no idea what the name of the restaurant was. It was popular at the time. I remember walking in and being like, oh, yeah, we've talked about this on the show. So as we're getting out of the car and walking, everyone is like, Ice! Like, he's stopping and taking pictures every 4 seconds with everyone. Like, literally, he walks in the front door. The doorman knows him. They were like, oh, thank you for coming, sir. We're going to take you to your table. They took us, to a special table in the back of the restaurant. And we just hung out for hours, having dinner, talking about life, talking about what we do. They were meeting my buddy. It was the coolest night. And, of course, at the time, I didn't have, money to pay for this fancy ass dinner, but of course I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'll get this. Ice was like, absolutely not. We are treating you to dinner, and got dinner. They drove us back to our hotel, our shitty hotel.
Wow.
But so that was kind of like the initial friendship started. Then they were having their renewal of vows. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
They never had a big wedding, and so they actually were getting married, and it was going to be part of their TV show, but they were getting married in LA. They sent me an invite.
Wow.
Yeah. So I get this invite. I'm like, holy shit. I'm getting invited to Ice-T and Coco's wedding? This is ridiculous. And it was at the W Hotel in LA, the really popular one. I think it's on Hollywood and Vine or somewhere down there. But yeah, we show up and they had to double check to make sure that you were supposed to be there. Yeah, Coco comes out. She's got this wedding dress on that her boobs are exploding out of it. She's like, Dax! And they come over. She gives us hugs. She got to meet Denise. And then we walk in, and inside the party is Snoop Dogg and Flava Flav and Bishop Don Juan and everyone was in this place, and it was crazy. I did not belong there whatsoever, just because of how cool everyone was, and then it was just weird TMZ guy. But I had so much fun, and it was a wild night. And of course, we then just remained friends. But that's kind of how it all went down. And I never thought I'd be at their wedding.
Wow.
Not a million years.
Yeah, that's a good story. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go.
I don't remember what we bought them. Now that I think back, I'm like, I wonder what we bought them for their wedding.
Did you have to give them a gift, or did they say no gifts?
I honestly, I can't even remember. I wish I could go back and find the invite. I have no idea where the hell it's at, though.
Yeah. All right, I am going to go with Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey, who I am a huge fan of Jim Carrey. I mean, I don't know anybody who's not a fan of Jim Carrey. He's Jim Carrey, and he's one of those guys to me. When I first started the job doing this field, I didn't think he wasn't on my radar of someone who was ever going to run into, And one day, it was a Friday night, it was rainy, and I needed a shot. I got nobody all day, and I needed to get someone. And I got a tip that Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos were at Le Conde Verde. And I waited there. It's 10 at night, and it's raining. I just need a shot. I need someone on my camera, just so it shows that I work today. And all of a sudden, an SUV pulls up right next to me. And who gets out of the car? It's Jim Carrey and a girl and his bodyguard. And they see me with my camera, and I didn't even do anything. I was in awe. And the bodyguard hurries up and brings him into the restaurant. I could see him through the window, but I didn't even shoot them. And I was like, oh, there they are. And I was just wow. And I just couldn't believe it. I could see them eating inside the restaurant right next to Kelly and Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos' table. But somehow they got done sooner than Kelly and Mark. And the bodyguard sees me waiting outside, and he sees me with my camera. He basically brought out the girl first because he didn't want to bring them two out together because he didn't want them to be seen together, if that makes sense. And so what I did is I threw my camera in the bush, and the bodyguard brings the girl out first. And then Jim comes out, and I had my camera high in the bush. I go, hey, Jim, can I get a photo with you? He goes, sorry, man, don't do photos. And he jumps in the car. And I'm just like, oh, man. Again, it's raining. It's a Friday night at 10 at night. And all of a sudden, I think like Jim obviously sees me by myself standing outside. And Jim rolls down the window and goes, hey, man, I'm really not in the mood to take photos, but I do want to meet you. My name's Jim. I go, hey, Jim, my name's Adam. I'm a huge fan. I said, listen, I'm here. I'm a paparazzi at the time. I'm a TMZ at the time. I said, I just wanted to meet you. I'm sorry. I've been doing this job for a little bit, and I just never thought I'd ever run into you. And I just want to let you even know how much you mean to me and how much like you've impacted my life, my career. And like I just basically kissed his ass. And then we just started talking. I started talking comedy with him. I told him I'm a comic, and we just started talking for probably about 15, 20 minutes. And he's in the car. I'm outside, but like the girl's next to him. And he was as nice as can be. Super cool, right? And then that summer, it was right before the summer, that summer, he moved into Perry Street. And on Perry Street was a beautiful street in the West Village. He had this art studio.
Was this the one with the weird like garage door thing?
So he lived he lived in the same building as the Perry Street restaurant, the same building as two other big celebrities. I don't want to say which celebrities because I don't want to out where the celebrities live. But and then down the street, probably about like 200 yards down in a beautiful street, he had this garage that he rented and made into an art studio. And I'd see Jim Carrey outside, inside painting. He'd play basketball on the street, ride bikes. And it became my summer of Jim Carrey. And we'd see each other all the time. I'd say hi to him. I'd stop. I'd talk to him. Like we were like neighborhood friends. Stop, hang out all the time. We became like not close, but like, what's up, Jim? Hey, how are you? Good to see you. How are you, Adam? What's going on? Who'd you get today? Like we would just kind of, hang out. I got to go in the art studio. He'd show me around. I mean, it was awesome. And then unfortunately moved out. But here's a funny story. So years later, Jim Carrey was staying at the Trump Soho in New York City. And at the time, the Jonas Brothers were staying there. And there was a few girls, probably about like 10 girls waiting outside for the Jonas Brothers. So there's an SUV right outside the door. And I'm hanging outside the door with the doorman. And the doorman goes, oh, that car's for Jim Carrey. Now, I don't shoot Jim Carrey because A, he's not into it. And B, like he's not into it. So I don't bother him, right? The girls are waiting outside. They think one of the Jonas Brothers is about to run out. All of a sudden, Jim Carrey starts walking out the door really quick. Goes to girls, Jim Jonas, nice to meet you. And he jumps in the car. And the girls don't even know who he is. They're like, what, Jim Jonas? Who are? And then he rolls down the window. He goes, I'm the Jonas brother nobody talks about. And he rolls the window back up and drives off. Me and the door guy were cracking up because it was Jim Carrey going Jim Carrey. And it was so funny, and the girls are so confused. But they're like, "Oh my God, we got to see him go. Like we got to see him."
And none of that was on tape. It was
it was just him. It was him just messing around, just having fun.
Jeez, that would have been such a good video, too.
Dude. It would have been so good. It would have been so great. Oh man, but I love it's Jim Carrey.
God, can you imagine if we ever got an interview on here with Jim Carrey?
Dude, I have so many questions, but I just want to like hang and just like, what's it like? Like. He's just a genius. I love Jim Carrey. I think he's great. All right, Dax, what do you got?
All right, so I've got another New York story for you. So do you remember when I went out for the Live with Kelly competition?
I do.
So this was right after leaving TMZ. Like a month later, I was flown out to New York by ABC because I had made it into the top 5 of the Live with Kelly competition. This was right after Strahan had left. They were looking for a co-host. Remember, Kelly was like rotating through different co-hosts all the time. And then it was like a competition, and people voted me up. And so I got to go out there for the top 5. And I'm on the plane. Well, actually, let me rewind. Here in LA, I am standing next to someone in like the security line at the airport. And I'm looking, I'm like, is that him? I can't tell. Like, he's got on a hat and big headphone, like clearly in sunglasses, like doesn't want to be recognized in the airport. And it was Sterling K. Brown. And this was right after the whole O.J. Simpson show. So he had just won like an Emmy for that. A Modern Family, or not Modern Family, I'm sorry. What the hell show is he on? This Is Us.
Yeah.
This Is Us was the biggest show on television, and he was just trying to keep it real cool, not looking up. Like I remember him like kind of like looking at his phone, hat, sunglasses, big headphones, like don't bother me. So I was like right behind him most of the way through the security line. I was like, okay, this is cool. I could tell it's him. We get on a plane, and as I'm walking through the plane, I'm like, oh shit, there's Chrissy Metz. Oh shit, there's Justin Hartley and Sterling K. Brown. So basically the triplets from This Is Us all on my flight, right? We land in New York, and I don't know where they disappeared to. I didn't see them when we were getting off the plane. They were clearly in like first class. I was not. And as we are getting to the baggage carousel, Chrissy and Justin Hartley are standing there waiting for their luggage, like right next to us. And I am a huge This Is Us fan. And I look over, I'm like, can I get a photo with you guys? And they were like, absolutely. The two of them sat there, started asking all these questions, having a great time. They found out that I was in town for this competition. Chrissy ends up following me on Instagram and rooting me on through this whole competition. We are still friends on Instagram to this day over a baggage carousel. Like, how many people do you think come up to them on a regular basis wanting photos, and they just come and go, and they like were so kind, so cool. I ran into Justin also at like an Emmy party a little bit later. He was awesome. These two were so wonderful, and I've kept in touch with at least Chrissy numerous times over the years, but just dope people, and I wanted to give them that recognition of how cool they truly were, because they could have easily just been like, yep, photo, move along with life, and they actually took the time to like get to know me and ask me a bunch of questions and like hang out for a little bit. It was really fun.
No, that's really cool. I've met them before, and they're super nice people. Although, actually, I will say that of the cast who I met who was really nice was Chrissy Metz is super nice, and what's his name, who you just mentioned? Justin Hartley, very nice.
Justin?
And also, who's the other guy? The Italian guy.
Sterling?
No, I met him, but he was like, he wasn't like that great. Milo, very nice guy, cool dude. But that's cool.
Yeah, Sterling, I have no idea where he went. He disappeared.
Yeah.
I never saw him after I got on the plane.
He wasn't that cool, but I've met him before, but it's not like he wasn't that cool. It's his publicist is sort of like not nice and kind of ruined the experience when I met him. So that shows it. Publicists be nice, and that kind of reflects on it. But Chrissy is so nice, and so is Justin Hartley. Just like very good people. Nice, cool. Yeah.
Like I think with Chrissy is she didn't make it big in her career until later in her life, and she went through a lot of stuff. If you ever have a second, there's another podcast that I like to listen to. It's called We Regret to Inform You, the Rejection Podcast, and they did one about her, and it's about people in Hollywood and like all the crap that they went through to get to where they are at now. And they did one on her, and I mean, just rejection after rejection after rejection before winding up on This Is Us, because obviously her weight was a big factor. A lot of people were like, nope, we don't. You're just going to be like the fat funny girl, and no one is going to take you serious. You're never going to get a good role. And then she got an amazing role and won an Emmy and all of that stuff. And I think that she is very humble, unlike other people who like become a star overnight and they don't have that humble side to them. She does, and she's so cool and so wonderful. And I hope everyone can get a chance to meet her one day.
So actually, I have another airport story. I wasn't going to say this story, but this just reminded me.
Okay.
My brother's bachelor party. We were going to Vegas, okay, and I booked the wrong flight, and I booked a flight later than they did by accident. So, but we all went to the airport together, and my brother and his friends went to the bar. I had to go to like the gate and try to see if I could go on an earlier flight. So as I'm at the gate, who do I see sitting on the ground? But it's Chris Martin of Coldplay. And he's sitting on the ground, not in a seat, but sitting on the ground. I'm like, and I don't like people either A, don't recognize him, or people aren't talking to him. And my brother, and I know his ex-roommate who's there, love Coldplay, huge fans of Coldplay. So I went up to Chris. I go, listen, Chris, my brother and his friends, it's their bachelor party. Well, my brother's bachelor party. They're at the bar right now. I booked the wrong flight. Can you just do me a favor? When my brother gets over here, can you just act like you know me and just like be cool to me and just like say what's up to me? He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Like he thinks it's fun. It's cool. So I'm like, he goes back down, sits down. Later on, my brother and because I get on the flight, my brother and his friends come back up, like all rowdy. They have a few drinks in them. Yeah, and then I'm like, Chris comes up. Yo, Adam, what's up, mate? I'm like, hey, Chris, what's up? It's my brother Sean. They're like, what the like Chris Martin? Like they're so confused. And Chris was so cool and like hung out with us and talked to my brother and his friends for a while. And he was just going to Vegas by himself, and we just bullshit. We actually, all of us wound up boarding the plane last, and it was just. I didn't get his phone number. We didn't exchange Twitter handles, but like we got to like hang out with him for a little bit, and it was just like a really cool. It made my brother's trip, and like, again, it was just one of those things. He went like out of his way to just make it a really fun thing. I guess he knew that it was like a really like cool thing for us, and really wanted to make it like special for us. And it was really cool. And then actually, I saw him probably about a year ago, and I reminded him the story. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah. I mean, he acted like he remembered, but he probably didn't. But then he wanted to give me. He was like, here, and he gave me a button from his jacket and gave me a button.
That's dope, dude. I love like when. I just like when celebrities are dope like that. Like you run into some celebs who are just a-holes or just not into the celebrity side of being famous, and it's nice when you have that refreshing moment with a celebrity who is like, oh, they're just cool, or they're like enjoying the fame, and it's not, you know, getting to their heads, or they enjoy the interactions with people.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, what you got there?
Another one for you.
Yeah.
So, this one was really fucking dope. So, okay, there was a couple years ago, I was filming this show for the YouTube channel Hollywood Pipeline, and we were doing this kind of like sit down interviews with celebs, and I got to interview Tony Hawk, right? Big fan of Tony Hawk. I was never a skater at all growing up. That was not my thing. I did not skate. But Tony Hawk's a fucking legend. You know, everyone knows Tony Hawk. But you know, his clothing line, just he was everywhere throughout my whole childhood, and I get the moment to interview him. But not only am I interviewing him, I get invited to his house to interview him. So it's down kind of near San Diego. We drive all the way down there, and with me and my buddy Mike, who is doing the camera for us. And I get there, and we pull up, and it's like this. It's like a normal community, but then he's got like the gated house at the top of the community, right? So we pull up, and Tony is sitting outside, like on the driveway, waiting for us to show up. Like just against the wall, looking at his phone. Like, Tony Hawk is fucking sitting here waiting for us to show up at his house. Like, this is insane. So he like opens the gate, we come in, and just the nicest guy. Oh, do you guys want water? Do you guys want a tour of the house? I'm like, yes. All of the yeses I can possibly give you. So we tour his house, and it's just like photos galore, all this memorabilia everywhere. He's got a lot of friends that like are in the art world, so they'll send him different pieces of art that they've created. But just a beautiful, very modern looking home. Walks us out to his backyard. He's got this beautiful pool. The view is overlooking the ocean. Beyond the pool is like his own personal skate park out back. We do the interview. He's unbelievable, just so friendly, so awesome. And then he's like, do you know how to skate? Let's go out in the backyard. I'm like, dude, I've literally never been on a skateboard in my entire life. No, I don't know how to skate. I'm going to teach you how to skate. I'm like,
oh, that's cool.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm like, this is really embarrassing that I have to like get on a skateboard for the first time in front of Tony Hawk in his own skate park. But of course, I seize the moment. We were like, you know, he's like, oh, I'll just do this. Like, did look at me like I'm an idiot because I didn't know how to skate. And he was like, oh, I've got an idea. Let's pose for a photo that it's gonna look like you know how to skate. And so he had me like go up on this ledge and like lean back on the board, so the board's coming up, and then he's sitting behind me cheering me on, and we take this epic photo where it looks like I'm just grinding along the edge of the pool, and he's cheering me on. And so
that's
I gotta
awesome.
say, I learned how to skate in Tony Hawk's backyard by Tony Hawk.
So
that's
cool.
a pretty fucking dope moment in my life. And not only that, we went to leave, and he had just had his 50th birthday party where he had like a special custom-made deck, like a skateboard, for his party. And he walks out, and he had autographed it. Hey, Dax, thanks so much, and gave it to me. So it's a Tony Hawk signed deck.
That's
and now
so
I've got it
cool.
up in my office. That's so cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's you got to post that photo in the group if you still have that.
I'll do that. I was just thinking, I've like got a couple photos. I've got like the Chrissy Metz one. I've got one with Ice-T from her wedding where the boobs are hanging out. So I'll definitely have to post some of these photos.
So I'm gonna go with this one because since you mentioned Tony Hawk, I'm gonna go with Kelly Slater. Kelly Slater is one of the best surfers of all. Well, he is the best surfer of all time. He's actually probably one of the best athletes of all time. When you think of like all the greatest sports athletes from like the Shaun Whites to the Michael Jordans to the Tom Brady's. Kelly Slater's up there. I mean, the guy is just such a legend. He's almost 50 years old, but he's also still competing with people that are 20 years old and like winning still. Like, it's just crazy what he's done in the surf world. So I'm a huge fan of Kelly Slater. He also has this brand called Outer Known. And one day I'm outside the Bowery Hotel. I was with my buddy Lance, and Lance is also a huge surfing fan and a fan of Kelly Slater. We're waiting outside the Bowery Hotel, and Kelly Slater comes out. And he was kind of like in a rush with his publicist going to an event. I'm like, Kelly. And he was super cool. He took a photo with both of us, and we started talking to him a little bit. But he was sort of like in a hurry to go to an event. I go, hey, Kelly, real quick. And he goes, what's up? And I was like, your brand, love it. Way too expensive. And he looks to the girl, his publicist, see? And he goes, tell me more. I go, listen, I love this stuff. This is cool, but you're overpricing it way too much. And I just start kind of not shitting on him, but shitting on him. Like, hey, it's too. And he goes, you know what? What's your address? I give him my card. A week later, he sends me a bunch of clothes. And so cool. 2 years later, not even, maybe a year later, we saw based on social media that Kelly Slater was staying at a hotel in Midtown. So me and my buddy Lance were like, dude, we got to go rent to Kelly. That was our thing. We were just obsessed with Kelly. And like me and my friend Lance always loved to hang out as we're waiting to, it was a good excuse to hang out. But hey, let's hang out while I'm working and hopefully we run into Kelly. As we're waiting outside, because we knew where he was staying because of his social media where he posted, 20 minutes later, Kelly comes out with his bags. He's checking out of the hotel. And I start to film him. I start to interview him. And I do this interview with him for like 7 minutes. He's super cool. We do the interview. And then all of a sudden he's like, I put the camera down. He goes, what are you doing now? And I was like, I'm chilling. He goes, you want to come get a juice with me, a smoothie with me? We're like, look at my buddy Lance. I'm like, okay. I left my car on in Midtown. My car was on. I left it on and just kind of had it rolling. And because I couldn't like, hey, let me turn my car off. We went with Kelly. We went to go get juice and like we just went and got like smoothies together. We walked back and he's like, yeah, I'm going to take like a car to the airport. I go, Kelly, I'll give you a ride. He goes, dude, don't worry about it. I'm just taking an Uber there. I was like, Kelly, no, I'm giving you a ride. He was like, okay. I drive a Honda.
Who paid for the smoothies, by the way?
I did. Yeah, I did. I was like,
for his?
Well, I wouldn't allow him to pay. Yeah, I basically did. I wouldn't allow. Listen, I was such a fan. I was like, Kelly, don't worry, I got it. Like my goal is, hey, if I ever go to Hawaii, you treat me like king. But anyway, he's in New York. I bought the smoothies, but he comes back to his hotel and he's like, I got to go to the airport. I was like, so he winds up getting my car. My buddy Lance is in the back, and Kelly's in the front seat with me. And we wound up having a great conversation and bonding. But we hit so much traffic that Kelly missed his flight. And I felt so bad. It wasn't my fault. There was just so much traffic. It was rush hour. And Kelly was so chill about it. He's like, dude, don't worry. I'll just book the next flight. Like, he's a surfer. Like, and I guess he has so many points. He's like, yeah, I'll just take the next flight. It's fine. Like, lives out of his backpack. Like, it was just so like effortless to him. But we wound up like bonding so much that like we became like friends. And then like every time if I do like an Instagram live, like Kelly always jumps on my Instagram live and like we'll start commenting and it's like, oh shit. Like it's just, we just became buds where we like bond over UFC stuff and bond over just like comedy and just life and stuff. And I don't know, it's been really cool that like, yes, I'm a huge fan of him, but it turned into like a real friendship.
So cool.
It's pretty awesome.
So now we just need a Shaun White story and complete the trifecta of
I know. I think between Tony Hawk and Kelly, we might have lost the audience a little bit. But here, I'll give you one last story. I'm gonna give you my one last story. Ready for this, Dax?
Okay. Yep.
Michelle Rodriguez. Okay. You like Michelle Rodriguez?
That's a blast from the past,
right?
there.
Michelle Rodriguez.
She was on Lost.
Lost,
right?
Fast and the Furious. Come on, like
Fast and the Furious. Yep.
She's been around. I mean, she's part of she's a legend on Fast and the Furious. She's an interesting person. So one day, it was a Friday night. This was years ago. And I was outside on this bougie event. And there's a few random celebrities there. And there's autographers there. And Michelle Rodriguez came out like to smoke a cigarette. And the autographers start to like ask for photos and autographs. And I start to like interview her a little bit. And then me and her just start bullshitting a little bit. Like we start talking for a while outside the event. And then all of a sudden, like she was like, all right, I need to get a car. She was trying to get like an Uber. She couldn't get an Uber. She couldn't get a taxi. So I walked up to her. I was like, hey, Michelle, you know what? I'll give you a ride home. And she was like, really? All right. You give me a ride home. That's cool. I'll ride with you. And even like the security of the van was like, dude, I don't think you should ride home with this guy. Like, and listen, I wasn't going to do anything wrong, but the security is like, excuse me, Miss Rodriguez, we don't advise that you.
We don't condone
we
this.
We don't advise you drive home with a paparazzi, you know? Like, she's like, no. And she might have had a few drinks. And she was like, nah, it's cool. It's cool. And then all of a sudden, this like rich dude comes out of nowhere and starts like hit on her a little bit, but not like strongly hit on her, but like starts to like, you know, kind of flaunt his stuff. And he's like, hey, listen, you know, I have a car service. If you want, me and my car service could take you home. And I'm like, oh, I'm done. She's going to go with the car service. She goes, no. I'm going to go with my friend over here. And I'm like, what? She's going with me still? And she like dips on going through like a nice Escalade to drive back home in my Honda Accord from like a nice event. So like I take her home and like we're driving home and we're like blasting music or like we're singing and dancing. I'm like, oh, this is getting weird. This is kind of crazy, Michelle Rodriguez. And then I just like let her off. Like I just like dropped her off. She's like, thank you. She gives me a hug and a kiss on the cheek. And I let her off like at her house, which is crazy. I'm just dropping off Michelle Rodriguez at her home. About 6 months later, I run into her. I'm like, Michelle, she's like, hey, Adam, how are you? And then she starts to talk. She's like, Adam's the nicest guy. He gave me a ride home one day. And like, I'm like filming her as I talk to her. And her friends are like, what are you doing getting rides home from this guy? And it was just like such a weird moment, but she was so cool and so chill and so nice. So that was kind of cool.
Oh, that's a fun story.
Yeah.
I like that.
You got one?
All right, I got one last story for you. This one, I know I've said moments of it on the podcast, and I think I even brought it up to the guest once when we had her. But for people that haven't heard, I think it's just a fun story because of the situation as a whole. But my run-in with Kendra Wilkinson. So this happened back in like 2007, I think, is like the year. We were covering the like big in 2007, and I think it's 2007, award show that VH1 used to have, you know, where they'd like bring everyone out. It was like the most popular people of the year. And so we were backstage at that, got to meet Paris Hilton that night. And what was the girl's name that was on Heroes? The blonde one, Hayden Panettiere. Yeah. Met Hayden Panettiere that night. Like just met so many cool people. And then the after party was at the Playboy Mansion. And so I was with Mike Walters at the time and Chad. These are guys from TMZ, if you don't know the names or whatever. And Mike had like crazy connections for this party. So if you've ever been to a party at the Playboy Mansion, which a lot of people obviously haven't, what they used to do you would have to park off-site, and then they would have all these shuttles that would bring you in because there was no parking in Beverly Hills. It's like literally the mansion is in the middle of a community, and you can't park along the streets. They don't want that, so they would just, here, you park at like the W, and we'll send a car to come, or we'll send a bus to come get you, and you could trek in. Like it's a whole ordeal. And Mike had access to parking at the house, which is huge. It is a big deal to be able to drive onto the property, park right there, because that's only what like the big celebrities get to do. So I remember we were driving up the driveway, like looking at each other like, holy shit, I can't believe this is happening. Like we got access to the Playboy Mansion and we were parking like around, if you remember, there's like a fountain in the middle by the front door. Like literally we parked like right up there. It was cool. So we go around back. Everyone's at this party. Paris is there. Snoop's there. I don't even remember. There were so many people wandering around this thing. But I remember running into Kendra Wilkinson. And this was the time that she was actually living at the mansion. And she's out there. She had on like I think it was like a Chargers jersey or something. So she was totally not dressed up. Just kind of looked like she walked out of her bedroom and wanted to like check out what was happening at the party. And we end up dancing next to the pool. And like she's like dancing with me. We're having a great time. I end up taking a photo with her. She pointed over to like where the grotto was. I went and checked out the grotto. But it was just a really cool night because being at the Playboy Mansion was already like historical for me. Running into one of Hef's girlfriends at the Playboy Mansion, her dancing with me, like it was just a very, very memorable night for me. And I remember I brought it up to her on one of our episodes. And I don't think she could have given two fucks, but for me it was a big night.
Yeah.
I had fun.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a really cool,
when
cool
you
experience.
Yeah, when you park though, are you like nervous parking there because like it's just everyone's looking at you to see who pulls up or?
No, because most people were already like in the back, and I think the buses where they dropped him off wasn't right there. So like we were parking Mike's car, and it was like next to all these other like fancy ass cars, but like no one was really out there. I remember I took a photo right out front of the Playboy Mansion near the fountain, and there's no one out there.
Yeah.
It was like we had access to a spot that no one else could go. It was so fucking cool, dude.
Yeah.
Anyway. And then I went in the grotto and they wouldn't let you take pictures inside the grotto. I remember that being a big deal, and it was cool.
That's pretty cool.
Those are our stories. I feel like I could tell you like 100 more. Now that we're getting into it, I'm like, oh, this is fun. I've got like a Lisa Vanderpump one and Brian Austin Green one. I feel like I've got so many more that I want to tell, but we're kind of out of time for this week's episode.
Yeah.
So we may have to do another episode like this down the road because this was cool.
Yeah, no, this was a lot of fun. I thank you guys for checking out. Listen to our shenanigans. Make sure you check out our Instagram at Hollywood Raw Pod, P-O-D. We're also on TikTok, Facebook. We're on it all. Our shout out to our private Facebook group, Off the Record, where we kind of put some deets up there and some stuff. It's just a really cool community where we kind of interact with you guys interact with each other, and it's a lot of fun. Follow me at Adam Glyn. Follow Dax Holt at Dax Holt. We'll see you guys next time.
If you guys have a second, please head on over, leave us a review. It means the world to us. It is the one way that we start to climb the ranks on iTunes and on the charts. So please, 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 you hear us say it all the time, but if you haven't left one, we would really, really appreciate it. So thank you guys so much for listening. Until next week, bye.
See ya.
What's up, guys? If you like that video, there's plenty more where that came from.
Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell, so we can just feed you all the goodness daily.
Hurry up. Come on, let's go.